Yo, yo, Tony D here, finishing off Black Summer. Totally enjoy this ride. It grabs you and just yanks you into action, and your mind won't stop thinking. Like, the plot and the pacing is brutal, but the artwork, it's hyper detailed line work, very visceral. Yeah, 6 and 7. One thing I want to mention about the covers, they highlight each character in the story. I think it's cool. The story, you're really getting into, these flashbacks are very consistent and they tell you a lot. And one thing I'll mention about the flashbacks is there's a lot of idealism with their flashbacks and what they're going to do with their transhumanism enhancements. They're in a state that's just corrupt. They're going to change that state. What happens when you have that power where you can change something that you think is wrong, but it's done by brute force? It's really the theme of the book. And there's a lot of layered symbolism. We'll get into that as we go, but Tom, he's one of the main drivers of the enhancements. And I don't know if it's his girlfriend. I think it's just his girlfriend. No, I'm sorry. This is her. And they're talking more about the pros and cons. This is, when you see this, idealistic thought process. It's the, oh yeah, here you go. Visceral as all get out. And one thing I'll say about this page, to finish my thought from the first, it's idealism to the max. And we all do it. But once you get into it, things change. I'll tell you what, on this page, I was lost. I spent a lot of time looking at this, and I don't know if you can see it. There's a room in this hideout that they're all fighting in, and you have SpongeBob SquarePants. Where's another one that I saw that was, oh, Mario from Mario Brothers. That's crazy. There's a bunch of those in here. If you get the book, check it out, look through there. I guess there's a room with a bunch of toys, but I thought that was fantastic, incorporating these little find type things. And they're having a huge battle with these guns that were sent to take them out. Just to recap, they're on the run from the military. John Horus, what he did, taking over pretty much leadership without being appointed leader. And the government needs to take out the rest of the guns because they are like him. And the action is fast. The artwork is just hyper detailed line work, extremely razor sharp. And it lends well to the pace that's just relentless. It's just a big battle. And then they get our guy, Atlas Hyde. It's pretty emotional too, because they're all friends. Yeah, it's brutal. He's pretty much, it's a good segue into his flashback. And he talks about being big with the muscles. And another important point here is these two, one's a Republican and one's a liberal, and they're discussing that essentially. They even say, hey, I know I think different than you think different than me, but the point of me wanting to be big is whatever we do, it's for the good, and I want to stand tall where I'm seen. And this is a really good example of how conversation really should happen. And then it's actually a very intelligent moment too. So you have, and it also shows you on the team, there's different ideals, which is interesting as well, which adds to the tension because there's a lot of argument with what's going on and what they need to do. Ideals come into play with what are we going to do, because John Horus is really being hunted. So John Horus, they've nuked him twice. He brings the fight to them. Not really the fight. He brings the conversation to them. And they're ready to talk because there's nothing they can do. He'll just wipe them out. And these eyes, one point I'll make is Frank, the guy leading the program, who now works with the CIA. Horus did not divulge how these were created. He kept that all a secret from him. And there's dialogue where Frank is upset about that because he needs to be able to control. That control factor is there. He talks with the generals, and they talk about Tom the War being shot by the tank. And this is where John Horus finds out that the tank was under some other control, and they did not do that. And it ratchets up the mystery of what's Tom the War doing. But we'll get to that. They give him the evidence. And the commander here, he just tells him they're orchestrating an attack against your surviving friends. And he wants to protect his friends. He's loyal to his friends. What he did, he thinks is right, and it didn't affect any, in his mind, it didn't affect any relationship. But he hasn't been around the rest of the team where there's a lot of, oh, just what are we going to do? What is our purpose right now in this situation? And this is where Tom the War and Frank are discussing how John Horus, with the eyeballs, kept that all a secret. And Frank he's upset about it. He needs control, but he's not going to have it if he doesn't know how they're created. John Horus, that's a little foreshadowing. Maybe he knew this time would come and he didn't want them to develop a deterrent, which is usually the case when you have something like that. A deterrent is developed just in case. Backup plans. Horus is really having an intelligent discussion with this general. For this discussion, very human. That's your human interjection of what's going on. He's even questioning John, did you think all of this through? The possibilities of the outcomes, allowing for the chance that your actions would just all go to hell. Very valid questions. And I think the transhumanism that they have has totally changed their thought process. It's not idealism anymore. It's conflict. It's a very real thing. Ripe is just an awesome artist. They're still battling, and the remaining guns from the initial group, they have more experience. They know what they're doing. And they take care of these guns right here. And this one right here just wants to protect the state that she's in. She doesn't want to expand past that. She wants to essentially take him out and make her own rules for the state, but it's beyond that right now. What a great shot. You have more guns. It wasn't just those other 7. There's quite a bit of new guns, and they're coming for John Horus because they're going to need it. What does that mean? Are these gun enhancements stronger than a nuclear detonation? Because they nuked him twice in the last issue. And we get to, that general and his men, they're gone. It's just a waste, but it's the themes of justice, power, moral ambiguity, which is thick in here. It really challenges us as a reader to consider, is Horus a hero, a villain, or is he something more complicated than that? And that's what I love about the book. It makes me think about that. There's more there. It's really a cerebral take on the superhero genre, the deconstruction, and it's just wrapped in a shell of high-octane violence and political commentary. We start off, last issue, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Boom! Frank is seeing it. He knows what's going on. I think he's pretty confident that his guns can take out Horus, or at least weaken him enough where something can be done. And another great full shot for Ripe. You can get lost in this. He could put Easter eggs in here wherever he wants. And I just love how they're above him. He's on the bottom now, and these are above him. Some symbolism there as well, where you can't always be on top. Sometimes your actions drag you down. Frank he actually has intelligent dialogue. He adds value to the story. Warren Ellis did not waste any dialogue. It all means something. It's all important to the story. And it gets you thinking about stuff. And that's the beauty of comics. When he's also mentioning here that since he doesn't know how to counteract Horus's eyes, he can overload them because he knows they're energy based. The purpose of the nuke, the numerous guns coming at him. And this shows you how powerful he is. He knows that it's a fight right now. And he even mentions that he saw the cracks in Horus's behavior and he knew he had to do something. He even mentions, he calls them crazy. Crazy people with that kind of power, seeing crime every time they looked at any kind of authority. He just couldn't be a party to that. And that's another theme in the book is, when is authority gone too far and who corrects that? And it's more than just the people voting. It's something definitive, but there's consequences to acting in that nature on your own. So one of his eyes explode and it has radiation, so they know it's one of his eyes. The gun registers radiation and they need to find out what's going on. And they're friends with Horus, but they need to mitigate this situation. This is their attempt to, they show up. Oh, and they also have dialogue. Can they kill him? And they're not sure. It looks like Horus is winning. And they're trying to figure out, do we do anything? There's that check on heroism. You're beyond doing what a hero does. You're in a situation now. And that was another theme where the heroism really just deconstructed to a point of humanism. What would you really do? So yeah, they show up and the speeches are just brutal. So they interject themselves into the foray, and they even mentioned that they owe John some evening of the odds, and they tell them they just need to go. And that they even announced that they're going to protect their city. And they even talk about how the country that cared whether or not its authorities were criminals, then they would never be needed on the streets. So there's that layer, the questioning of doing and not doing, or how you do it. I think that's the main thing. And so Horus he lets loose and it's definitive. He is very powerful, and the artwork is just on point. It is sharp. The artwork just amplifies the moral weight of every decision, every explosion, every stare down. There is no wasted paneling in here. So we have our guy Frank. He goes to the gravesite of Laura. That's Tom Noor's. That was his girlfriend, maybe wife. I don't know. Someone will interject if they're into it. And you get a little flashback, and her gun is special. They don't really tell you what, but then you get this right here. Here's the turn. Horus shows up. He's got 2 eyes left. He won that battle. But they get into the moral ambiguity that's just going on. He even mentions he saw that he probably would turn rogue in the future because he wouldn't divulge how the eyes were made or intentions. Horus came here looking for Frank, and then all of a sudden, Tom Noor shows up. I knew he wasn't dead. He just couldn't be dead yet. But what an impactful scene because he's been missing through a few issues. And he tells them, you can't just do what you did. Justice is not a bullet and a manifesto. There's more to it than that. It's very complicated. It's very intricate. It's delicate. It really is. Yeah, they're having a showdown. He's not happy with Horus. And he's not afraid of him because he is beat down. What he did with the fake suicide with the tank was he got it to a point where he's weak now. Not just physically, but morally. Starting to question what he did. Actually, I take that back. He's not. He's still he firmly believes that he's right, and he's not going to stop. He's gone so far. It's one of those things, you cross a line, you just you can't stop. So it confronts the remnants of the tactical stream and his own legacy. Tom is actually pretty much giving him the dress down on what he's done. And he detonates Laura's gun. That's what was special about it. And look, that's so funny. Wright put his name on, I got to show you this. He put his name on one of the tombstones. He's awesome. I think I got to put him in the top 3, man, for sure. I'm going to look for some more things. I have some things back in the Mega Shop, in the Mega Archives. I'll look for them just for me. But yeah, the 3 guns want to do their thing, but this is like the Escape from New York scene where Snake Plissken is walking away and he's tearing up the tape that could save everybody. But he leaves a message that lays it all out. He lays out when he was in the 7 guns, and by the time you hear this, I'll be dead. We had it planned, and the remaining guns, they're listening to it, and he's just talking about how everything's scary with what's going on, but it won't be happening anymore. His plan is putting this to rest, and he lays it out. He killed John Horus, the main threat. And really, there was no way for John Horus to get out. He just went too far. And he's talking about when they took the names, they had to answer a question: how far do we go in pursuit of justice? So that's a very powerful statement. How far do you go in the pursuit of justice? And there's some more dialogue that's very impactful. Get the trade paperback at least, it's worth it. And he talks about if you decide that the highest authority of the land is criminal and you answer that question as Horus did, which was executing everybody, you can go far, but you can go too far. And it's just the whole theme of him deciding for everybody, which really was the downfall of him. And he even mentions he's given information on the CIA and Frank, discrediting them. So he puts that info out there. What a ride for me. I loved it. If you hung with me through this, let me know what you think. I think Matt at the comic shop, he was inquiring about it, and I'm going to let him know. The transhumanism, the power, the corruption, accountability is another thing. Just, it drifts with all that, especially the accountability. It's, man, I'll throw it out here. It goes to Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. I love this series. Some of the members of the team, they believed in Horus, and others, they were horrified. It really fractured a team. You start questioning why things started, how they morphed into this tragedy. A lot of the themes and resolution, it just interrogates the cost of idealism, how it all started, and the dangers of unchecked power, and the blurry line between heroism and hubris. When Tom's final message reframed the entire series, and it really offered a sobering reflection of what it means to save the day. Very thought-provoking. If you're into thought-provoking, it's politically charged, not a political channel, but it is what it is, and you gotta get it.